Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're taking what is honestly a pretty dense policy toolkit and transforming it into your ultimate leadership playbook. We're talking about navigating complex, high-stakes mandates at the absolute highest levels of leadership, specifically within the UN and partner organizations. If you've been looking to understand exactly how accountability works when the stakes are quite literally life and death, well, you are definitely in the right place.
Picture this. You're a UN senior leader. You're facing a completely chaotic workload every single day, right? You're trying to grasp how to handle a multitude of massive, critical priorities all at once. I mean, it can be incredibly challenging to figure out where specific mandates fit into your program priorities when absolutely everything is demanding your immediate attention. But before we solve that problem, we need to zero in on our main focus for this playbook, and that is PSEA, or Protection from Sexual Exploitation and Abuse. This is an absolute, non-negotiable standard. Making real progress here relies entirely on your active, highly visible leadership. It isn't something you can just delegate and forget about, because your personnel, your partners, and the communities you serve are actively looking to you for guidance. You have to be the role model. All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover 1. The PSEA Leadership Challenge. 2. Core Senior Leader Responsibilities. 3. Actions for Strategic Leadership. 4. The PSEA Responsibilities Checklist. And finally, 5. Your Personal Action Plan. Let's dive in.
Starting off with Section 1, the PSEA Leadership Challenge.
Look, the reality is that PSEA intersects with a whole web of other massive issues. We're talking about compliance, safeguarding, gender-based violence, child protection. It's a lot, and it is incredibly complicated to navigate all those competing demands. But here's the critical distinction. While responsibilities are shared across different programs, the zero-tolerance mandate for SEA requires your continuous, active engagement and consistent role modeling. In all this chaos, you are the anchor in the storm.
Moving right along to Section 2, Core Senior Leader Responsibilities. As a UN senior leader, you basically have 4 official core mandates. First up, you have to create and maintain an environment that actively prevents SEA. Second, you ensure protection from SEA is fully integrated into all coordination structures, whether that's humanitarian, development, or mission-based. Third, you make sure a country-level action plan is developed and actually implemented. And fourth, you ensure that a high-quality, victim-centered reporting and assistance mechanism is completely operational. Those are the 4 pillars of your responsibility. Which brings us to Section 3, Actions for Strategic Leadership.
So how do we actually do this? Well, it all comes down to deliberate, daily choices to execute those mandates. You have to physically lead by example. That means consistently adhering to standards, treating everyone with respect, and being acutely aware of power imbalances so you never, ever exploit them. It means showcasing your personal commitment by doing things like actively participating in mandatory PSEA trainings. You need to promote zero tolerance, thoroughly understand your role, and integrate PSEA risk identification directly into your organization's program planning.
Next up, Section 4, the PSEA Responsibilities Checklist.
Now, the official checklist brilliantly breaks things down into clear, distinct domains. On one hand, you have the specific requirements for demonstrating leadership and advocating for fundamental values. And on the other hand, it outlines exactly how UN leaders, resident coordinators, humanitarian coordinators, heads of mission must strengthen systems. We're talking about establishing strict safeguards, leading the development of collective country-level action plans, and ensuring discipline across all field missions.
And let me tell you, when it comes to overseeing case management, which is a huge area of risk, the checklist is strictly prescriptive. As a leader, you are required to take appropriate action the absolute moment there is reason to believe SEA has occurred. You must promptly inform senior officials of any allegations involving staff or partners, and you have to do it with total transparency. The consequences of failing to act here are just profound.
But, all this accountability means absolutely nothing without the right infrastructure. You're tasked with formally appointing an official at a sufficiently high level to serve as the focal point for receiving reports. And you've got to fiercely advocate for the resources needed to provide vital assistance to survivors. Basically, you have to make sure your personnel actually have the funding and support to carry out these conduct and discipline activities effectively.
And finally, we hit Section 5, Your Personal Action Plan.
This toolkit gives you a really masterful sequence for self-accountability. To build your personal action plan, you first identify priority actions based on your specific context. Then allocate the necessary human and financial resources, set hard timelines, and, this is crucial, Track your progress by updating the plan every 6 months.
For instance, let's look at a real-world scenario. Say your goal was to organize bi-monthly town halls on PSEA, but when it's time to review, you realize you've only held one town hall in 6 months because of time constraints. Instead of hiding that failure, a good action plan immediately sets next steps to fix it. You work with the logistics team, move back to a bi-monthly schedule, and adjust. That is what real accountability looks like in practice.
So when you see a blank template for a personal action plan, please don't just think of it as bureaucratic paperwork. It's really not. It's your tangible lifeline for integrating PSEA into your organization's core strategy. It's where you list your priority actions, secure your resources, and honestly evaluate your progress. It quite literally holds your feet to the fire.
At the end of the day, every single checklist, core mandate, and action plan we've just covered anchors back to one non-negotiable truth. SEA is never acceptable. You cannot engage in it, you cannot quietly condone it, and you absolutely can't turn a blind eye to it when it occurs. Your actions and words must constantly reinforce this. So, having walked through this playbook together, the real question isn't whether you have the tools anymore. It's how you're going to use them. How will you apply these exact checklists and action plans to demonstrate unyielding leadership in your own environment? Because the standard is zero tolerance. How will you ensure your organization meets it?